and they hooked up the lines on the area, and they started pouring water into the Porter's Drugstore, which became involved on kind of the common walls.
Yeah.
And just prior to that, that fire could have taken in the whole block
Yeah.
if we hadn't got set up with the air base help and gotten back then you called the fire streams you call, if you had the large type, what I call the cannon versus rifles,
Yeah.
you called them a major type of fire stream, which
Well, being super cold, ice everywhere, wind, we could have lost Logan.
oh, you could have lost the whole whole block,
Yeah.
and the bank was down on the corner.
Yeah, we could have lost Logan.
And the hotel was still behind this Penny's and all that business.
Did being so cold, did the firemen have to get relief? Did another guy get on the hose, or one guy stay on the hose for a long time?
Yeah, they relieved each other, and I can't say enough for the Red Cross or the Salvation Army. They it was a habit with them to come around with hot coffee. And
How about Greenfellas?
Greensfielders, it was pretty well noted that they had a big variety of gloves, and they were giving them away to the firefighters.
When that cold wind blows that water in your face, now would your face actually start freezing with the ice on your face, or?
I can remember going out on fires, and we had a potbelly stove in the old central fire station, and we'd get it going, and the guys would come in, and some of them had small hammers where they would hitting the buckles on their coats,
Knocking the ice off,
knocking the ice off so they could get them unbuckled,
Oh my God.
and putting their fire clothes on the back of chairs and around that stove, and including our behinds.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta have that warm.
So
So, what did it do then? It started at Penny's, then it jumped on the other buildings, right?
yeah, it jumped internally with
Was it inside the building that jumped, or was it on the roofs?
inside when the walls collapsed.
It was internal.
Internal, when the walls collapsed, why,
Just
it's just a matter of
moving on over.
moving over to the next building. And common walls should have been outlawed
Yeah.
back
Trying to
then.
save money, huh?
But I suppose they didn't think about,
Yeah. Never planned on a fire.
yeah.
Why,
But
nobody got hurt, right? Seriously.
nobody seriously got hurt that I know of.
Now, did some of them other fire stations out of town come and go to our fire station for backup? Or they do go
The
straight to the fire
volunteer fire departments
for backup?
mainly came in, and we asked them to stay at the stations. I don't know whether that happened on that Penny's fire, but I don't want anybody to think I'm against volunteer fire departments, because I helped establish the Georgetown Fire
You
Department.
did.
And that's another story. But
Did
but the volunteer fire departments, you got to put yourself in their shoes.
yeah.
Now, some of them are pretty cocky, and I can see why. They're young guys, and we can do what you can do. And,
Yeah.
but you got to stop and think. A volunteer doesn't have a pension system if you get hurt, and
Workers' comp and that.
and they are working free of charge. So, and they got to think about their day off job or their
Yeah,
regular
their main job.
and they have to think about it in regards
Getting
to
hurt.
supporting their family.
Yeah, getting hurt.
And if they are on assembly line or like over at Kokomo, they can't just jump up and leave the assembly line.
How many hours did you guys fight that fire? When did you finally get it under control?
It was the next morning we got it under control, especially with the help from the air base in Kokomo, and we got what I call the large fire streams on the fire, which probably should have been there to start with. Instead of, I think one truck should go into any size building
Yeah.
and try to get it out quickly,
Uh-huh.
which if the truck goes up to the fire
Get there soon enough.
without bringing in the
Heavier
lines,
Uh-huh.
that quite often they can stop.
Was you there when some of the walls caved in?
Oh yeah.
That scare a fireman pretty bad when a wall caves in, and he doesn't know what's going to happen.
It doesn't scare you because by that time we were all outside.
Okay.
The only thing that's scary about a wall collapsing is if you think there's somebody in there.
Yeah.
But if you're pretty sure there's nobody in there, especially
How about electricity when you come to the fire like that?
we've had very good cooperation with the utilities.
Turning things off.
They're Johnny on the spot. They have crews they can call in, and they get the wires cut
Yeah.
pretty quick, and they've even helped with their baskets. They've even
Yeah.
been on certain fires where they'd help, especially put a fireman and maybe one of their men.
How many men it take to hold a big fire hose? How many men it takes to hold it? Because of all that water pressure.
The real big line, it's set up with it's called a deck gun. And the deck gun has a built-in stand.
Oh.
So the built-in stand with that gun is stabilized where you put it.
Okay.
You might get a crew of guys to move it, but you still stabilize it on the ground or on a roof.
That water's a lot of weight.
Yeah. So the deck guns, or we had one deck gun on the aerial, which we used on a fire not too long after this, which was called a deluge set. It wasn't called it, but it did serve the same purpose. You could put as many as 3 2.5-inch lines into it. 2 was usually sufficient. And the fire after this, I don't know if we're going to go into that.
What's that? Yeah, talk about those other two fires. Not right after that.
The other
David's Hardware.
David's Hardware was a big fire. Not too long after the Penny's fire, except it was in the spring and a little wasn't freezing weather. I can show you a picture here of the what I call a master stream. This is all on the Penny's fire.
Well, we're going to scan them and put them on the video.
This is the David's fire, and this is a deck gun here.
Okay. We'll scan these and put them on the video. Oh, I see it's metal, and
Yeah, that's
you don't even have to have somebody on it.
no. But here is the deluge set that I asked the fire chief on this fire, if one set up big, and he said go right ahead.
Uh-huh.
So I had. And
Were you assistant fire chief?
I've been demoted to a ladderman.
Was ya? No politics there, was?
I was giving guys orders, and nobody argued with me.
Uh-huh.
I had number 4 hook up to a hydrant right there at 6th and Broadway. We hooked up directly at the hydrant, which back then was better water supply than hooking up at the fire. Now they can hook up at the fire because of the large hose they can lay.
I'll tell you a little.
This is the deluge set. Now these guys are holding it down on the ground. It's got a bracket, but it was too heavy to hold. They used it here to cut off the fire, and then they eventually brought the stream back around here, and they had they had a waterfalls in the cafeteria.
Really? Now, how about the windows? They blow out?
Yeah, the fire will automatically blow out
windows.
windows. But David's was over here.
Yeah, Ralph Davids.
And they eventually got this fire. They put the water on top of the building, which was a good idea, and then they eventually
to the windows,
start shooting it through the window, and there was no way that fire was going to take
the firemen now, they have radios. All the firemen have radios. They can talk to each other.
They have radios, and that's a good thing. Especially if you got crews in the back and crew up front.
Well, as far as I know, our department's never lost a man in fighting a fire, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's
pretty dangerous.
Well, this fire.
You think this was the biggest fire we've ever had in Logansport, the Pennies?
The Pennies? No.
No.
No, and I went through probably one of the biggest fires at the age of 14.
What was burning then?
It was on First Street, where we lived.
Yeah.
And it was the old automobile factory.
The Revere?
Revere, right?
Oh my gosh.
Right across the street. And that's another story.
Yeah.
But that took off in the middle of the night. The fire trucks, sirens woke us up, and that fire really became involved. It burnt a quarter of a block back to a 3-story building, which was still part of the Revere, which I can explain.
There was quite a few buildings then.
Yeah,
Revere.
which I can explain what the 3 part was. They had an elevator where they took the cars up and they upholstered them and all that. I can go into fine detail on that. Even though I was a kid, I got to tour that on a regular basis.
Was they making cars when you was a kid?
Oh no.
No, wait, it was way.
My dad told me they wasn't making cars there, but everything was still there to make a car. All the machinery, and which is a lot of more details, which I would gladly go in detail now if you want, or
we'll just finish on
some other time.
Another story. Why? So you guys, the next morning, then it was all ice on everything, and you guys were just putting out the hot spots, right?
Hot spots, and they burned for. The hot spots went on for quite a while, several days afterwards, and there was no use anybody getting in there.
No, getting hurt.
Trying to dig around and just let it burn itself out, and leave the water, as you can see, they left